Did Blake Lively just make one of the biggest legal misfires yet? We got Ron Zambrano here to break it down. Blake filed the supplemental Rule 11 letter, adding new evidence to the months-old sanctions argument, motion, etc. But in filing that, I believe she broke the sort of procedure of Rule 11 by adding these new allegations without the safe harbor period, which has now opened up a bunch of potential responses from Wayfair, including the Van Zam lawsuit, arguments against Ryan Reynolds, a lot of really bad stuff that she had somehow managed to avoid, and now just completely opened up, which really would be such a dumb move on her part, but great for the case. Am I getting that clearly? Can you sort of explain this Rule 11, sort of, I guess, start there if I am?
Did Blake Lively just commit legal self-sabotage? What was supposed to be a strategic move in her battle against Justin Baldoni has turned into a disaster that could expose Ryan Reynolds to devastating scrutiny. Before we break down exactly what went wrong, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell. This case is moving fast, and you won't want to miss the next bombshell. Drop a comment and tell us, was this incompetence or desperation? The question everyone's asking now is simple. Did Blake's legal team just hand her opponents the ammunition they needed to destroy her case? Let's dive into the filing that changed everything. Blake Lively just filed a supplemental letter in her ongoing legal war with the Wayfair Studios team. On paper, it was meant to strengthen her Rule 11 sanctions motion, a legal mechanism designed to punish attorneys who file baseless claims. But instead of scoring points, this move appears to have blown up in her face spectacularly. Here's what happened. Lively's team submitted new evidence and arguments to support sanctions against Justin Baldoni's attorneys, months after the original motion was filed back in May. The problem? They completely bypassed proper legal procedure. Rule 11 requires what's called a safe harbor period, essentially a warning shot that gives the opposing side time to withdraw problematic claims before sanctions are pursued. Blake's team skipped that step entirely. Even worse, they didn't ask the court for permission to file these new arguments. They just filed them in a publicly accessible document. The correct approach would have been submitting a letter requesting permission, waiting for the judge's guidance, and then proceeding. Instead, they attempted to do both simultaneously, which is considered a serious procedural violation. Think about it this way. It's like asking your boss if you can take the day off while simultaneously leaving the building. You're not actually asking permission. You're informing them of what you've already decided to do. Courts don't appreciate that approach. Employment attorney Ron Zambrano, who specializes in Hollywood cases, didn't mince words about this tactical blunder. The move appears to be a desperate attempt to undermine the recent motion for summary judgment that seriously damaged Blake's position. But in trying to regain ground, her legal team opened a door they may now deeply regret. Because here's where it gets truly damaging. Wayfair's legal team immediately seized the opportunity. Their response was swift and devastating. If Blake wanted to introduce new evidence and bring up recent depositions, they argued, then they should be allowed to do the same. And the judge, bound by due process, would have to let them respond. Due process is the cornerstone of American law. You can't give one side the chance to make new arguments while silencing the other. Judge Shane Lyman would have no choice but to allow Wayfair's team to respond if he permitted Blake's supplemental filing to stand. And that's exactly what Wayfair was banking on.
Friedman of doing earlier,
Yes.
which it does seem like Friedman has actually wised up and they've gotten a lot more quiet and done this. But yeah, just to get more specific what they're doing, she's sort of bringing up this idea that Sarowitz and Abel basically had no factual basis to assert their claims. But then as Friedman responded, he's like, well, yeah, interesting you say that because Lively herself couldn't articulate the basis for her own retaliation claims. So does that not undermine her whole argument? Being that she's trying to throw Abel and Sarowitz in the bus, now they're gonna be like, well, yeah, you did too. How damaging is that contradiction?
The irony is almost painful. Blake's team had been criticizing Brian Friedman, Baldoni's attorney, for similar procedural missteps earlier in the case. They painted him as reckless, unprofessional, someone who didn't follow the rules. Now they've committed the exact same error, but potentially with far more serious consequences. It's the legal equivalent of throwing stones while living in a glass house. Let's get specific about the substance of Blake's filing. Her team attempted to argue that Melissa Nathan and Jennifer Abel, two key figures in Baldoni's PR operation, had no factual basis for their claims in the case. It's a bold accusation, essentially calling them liars who fabricated evidence to support their position. The argument was this: Nathan and Abel made allegations without proper documentation or credible foundation. Blake's attorneys wanted sanctions against them for what they characterized as baseless legal attacks. On the surface, it sounds like a reasonable legal strategy. Go after the credibility of your opponent's witnesses and team members. But Friedman's response was surgical in its precision. He pointed out that during her own deposition, Blake Lively herself couldn't clearly articulate the basis for her retaliation claims. When pressed on specific details, what happened, when it happened, who was involved, what the timeline was, Blake allegedly struggled to provide coherent answers. Think about the devastating logic here. Blake is trying to argue that Nathan and Abel had no evidence, while simultaneously being unable to explain her own allegations coherently. The contradiction undermines her entire argument. It's like accusing someone of not having proof, while admitting you don't have proof either. This isn't just a minor inconsistency. It strikes at the heart of Blake's case. If she can't articulate why she believes she was retaliated against, how can a jury be expected to find in her favor? If she's attacking others for lacking factual support while having the same problem herself, doesn't that destroy her credibility? Legal experts have noted that this kind of self-inflicted wound can be catastrophic in litigation. Cases are often won or lost not on the raw facts, but on who the judge and jury believe. Credibility is currency in the courtroom, and Blake just spent a lot of hers. Could this pattern of inconsistency affect her standing with Judge Shane Lyman? Absolutely. Judges notice when parties make accusations they themselves are guilty of. They notice when someone points fingers while their own hands aren't clean. It creates what lawyers call a credibility problem, and in close legal battles, credibility can be everything. But here's where the filing becomes truly explosive. The most devastating element isn't what Blake said about Nathan and Abel, it's what she inadvertently revealed about Ryan Reynolds. Blake's supplemental letter mentioned her husband in ways that gave Wayfair's team the opening they'd been waiting for. And they took full advantage with ruthless efficiency. The response from Baldoni's legal team was calculated and fierce. They made it abundantly clear they have substantial damaging information about Ryan Reynolds' involvement in this situation. The documents are heavily redacted, but the implications are unmistakable and deeply troubling for the Reynolds camp. According to Wayfair's response, Reynolds allegedly attempted to interfere with Baldoni's relationship with his agency, WME, one of the most powerful talent agencies in Hollywood. That's not just aggressive behavior between celebrities. That's potentially actionable interference with business relationships. In legal terms, tortious interference is a serious claim that can result in significant damages. The filing suggests Reynolds allegedly participated in meetings where aggressive tactics were discussed. He allegedly produced documents that show his direct involvement in strategizing against Baldoni. The response paints a picture of someone who did far more than just support his wife from the sidelines. It suggests active, intentional participation in a coordinated effort. What kinds of documents could they be referring to? Text messages, emails, recorded conversations, meeting notes. The specifics are redacted, but the implication is clear. There's a paper trail. And that paper trail allegedly connects Ryan Reynolds directly to actions that could be legally problematic. Wayfair's attorneys framed their response brilliantly. They made it clear they don't want to drag Reynolds through the mud, but if Blake's team insists on bringing him up, they're ready to go nuclear. It's a shot across the bow, a warning disguised as a legal response. The message is unmistakable. Back off, or we release everything. This is high-stakes legal poker. Wayfair is showing just enough of their hand to make Blake's team nervous, but not so much that they lose leverage. They're saying, we have the cards. Do you really want us to play them? Why does this matter so much? Because Ryan Reynolds had successfully extricated himself from this case. The cross-complaint against him had been dismissed. He wasn't named as a defendant in Blake's primary claims. He was staying out of the public crossfire, focusing on his businesses and film projects. Blake's filing just pulled him right back into the center of it. And here's the kicker. Reynolds can't easily defend himself now without making things worse. If he speaks publicly, he risks waiving privileges or creating new evidence. If he stays silent, the allegations hang in the air unanswered. It's a lose-lose situation, all because of a procedural misstep by Blake's legal team. The broader strategic implications are staggering. Blake's team was trying to score quick points, to inject new energy into a case that was starting to turn against them. Instead, they've potentially exposed Ryan Reynolds to career-damaging allegations, undermined their own credibility, and given Wayfarer's team a PR victory wrapped in a legal filing. Legal analysts are calling this one of the most significant unforced errors in a high-profile case in recent memory. It's the kind of mistake that gets discussed in law school classrooms as an example of what not to do. And the consequences are only beginning to unfold. Let's rewind for a moment and understand how we got here. This legal battle began during the production of It Ends With Us, the romantic drama that was supposed to be a career milestone for both Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Instead, it became a battlefield. Blake filed a complaint alleging sexual harassment and a coordinated retaliation campaign orchestrated by Baldoni, his publicists, and Wayfarer Studios. The case exploded into public view when Blake filed with the California Civil Rights Department, triggering intense media coverage. She claimed Baldoni created a hostile work environment on set and then launched a PR smear campaign to destroy her reputation when she spoke up about it. Baldoni responded by filing a massive defamation lawsuit against Blake and Ryan Reynolds, claiming they orchestrated a coordinated effort to damage his career and relationships in Hollywood. The countersuit named Reynolds specifically, alleging he used his influence to pressure agencies and studios. For months, the case has been a procedural chess match. Motions, depositions, sanctions requests, and media battles have defined the landscape. Blake's team initially filed a Rule 11 sanctions motion back in May, arguing that Baldoni's attorneys made claims without proper factual support. That motion has been pending for months. Then came the motion for summary judgment from Wayfarer's team, a filing that sought to dismiss major portions of Blake's claims before trial. Legal observers noted it was particularly strong, filled with documentary evidence and deposition testimony that contradicted Blake's narrative. That's the context for why Blake's team filed this supplemental letter. They were trying to fight back, to regain momentum before the judge ruled on the summary judgment motion. But in doing so, they may have made their situation exponentially worse. Let's break down what Rule 11 actually means and why this procedural error matters so much. Rule 11 is a serious weapon in litigation. It requires attorneys to certify that every filing they submit has a good faith basis in fact and law. When lawyers violate Rule 11, they can face sanctions, financial penalties, public reprimands, even disciplinary action. It's not something courts take lightly. This safe harbor provision exists to prevent Rule 11 from being used as a bludgeon. Before you can request sanctions, you must serve the opposing party with your motion and give them 21 days to withdraw or correct the problematic filing. It's designed to encourage good faith and avoid unnecessary fights. Blake's team appears to have violated this process by adding new allegations without triggering a new safe harbor period. In simple terms, they tried to reload their weapon without following the rules for doing so. That's a problem. What could realistically happen now? According to legal experts, Judge Lyman will likely strike both letters, Blake's supplemental filing and Wayfarer's response. He'll essentially say, "You both had your little spat in public, but this isn't how we do things." Both sides will be admonished, but Blake's team will receive the stronger reprimand because they initiated the procedural violation. Will there be formal sanctions? Probably not. But judicial admonishments carry weight. They signal to everyone in the courtroom, and potentially to appeals courts down the line, that one party has been playing games with procedure. The strategic implications go beyond just this motion. Blake's team has now demonstrated a pattern of aggressive tactics that don't always follow proper channels. Earlier in the case, they criticized Baldoni's team for similar behavior. Now they've done the same thing. That pattern damages credibility. More importantly, this filing gave Wayfarer's team a public platform to hint at damaging information about Ryan Reynolds without actually being accused of improperly injecting him into the case. They got to make their threats. "We have bad stuff on Ryan. Do you really want to go there?" While simultaneously arguing that Blake forced their hand. It's a masterclass in turning an opponent's mistake into a strategic advantage. Wayfarer's attorneys made it clear they have evidence about Reynolds attempting to interfere with Baldoni's business relationships. They suggested there's documentation of Reynolds' involvement in meetings and decisions. All of that is now part of the public record, even if it's redacted. Could Reynolds actually be brought back into the case based on these revelations? Technically, being aggressive or even berating someone isn't automatically unlawful. It depends on the context. If the alleged behavior was sexist, discriminatory, or crossed into harassment based on a protected category, that could create legal liability. But mere rudeness or bullying, while morally questionable, isn't grounds for a civil lawsuit. The problem for Blake and Ryan is that we don't know what's in those redacted sections. And now the public is asking questions. The narrative that Ryan was just a supportive husband staying out of the legal battle has been shattered. Even if nothing comes of this legally, the PR damage is real. This case is becoming a cautionary tale about how even powerful celebrities can stumble when legal strategy goes wrong. Blake lively entered this battle with substantial resources, top-tier legal representation, and significant public sympathy. But procedural missteps like this one can erode those advantages quickly. The broader question is whether this pattern will influence Judge Lyman's eventual ruling on the substantive issues. Judges aren't supposed to let procedural irritations affect their judgment on the merits, but they're human. When one side repeatedly creates unnecessary complications, it can subtly shift the atmosphere in the courtroom. For Ryan Reynolds, this development is particularly troubling. He'd managed to stay largely out of the legal crossfire, focusing on his business ventures and film projects. Now he's been dragged back into the narrative, with allegations of interference and aggressive tactics hanging over him, even if they're not formal charges. The real winner here might be public curiosity. Every procedural fight, every filing, every response generates new questions and keeps this case in the headlines. And if this case eventually goes to trial, the depositions and evidence that come out could be even more explosive than what we've seen so far. What do you think? Did Blake's legal team make a catastrophic error, or is this just a minor setback in a larger war? Could Ryan Reynolds face real consequences, or is this all smoke and no fire? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one, and your insights might shape our next deep dive into this case. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because this legal battle is far from over. And if this case has taught us anything, it's that the next twist is always just around the corner.